Assalamualaikum and a very good morning to our lecturer and fellow classmates. For this week's call class, we will be the first presenters and our topic will be technology and listening skills. So I'm going to be the first presenter for today. My name is Alyssa, Krista, binti Ahmad, Kamal, and I'm going to be covering past research on technology and listening skills. So on the first slide, we can see that technology is useful to teach listening because each type of technology provides opportunities for students to explore their ranges of listening strategies. And it allows for more emphasis on certain aspects such as cross-cultural, interactional, critical, and contextual dimensions of listening to be developed. Technology also makes learning process of listening more entertaining. So basically, when we use technology within the classroom, it helps the students learn more. And it also helps students be a little bit more interested when learning something, because when you listen and you watch, for example, when you watch a YouTube video, there's also audio. So when you watch that video, you're more entertained and you're more likely to kind of watch the video as it goes within the classroom. And it also enables the students to learn more things, to learn and to develop their listening skills better. The second one is regarding students' concentration in higher education. This is increasingly becoming a challenge. This was taken from everypiecematters.com. So this is a contrast of what I just previously said, in which technology can entertain the students faster and easier. For example, I'll give you my own experience. I have actually not paid attention in class during a lecture or when the lecturer is showing us a video of something. Sometimes my concentration becomes little to none, and I whip out my phone and I'm just scrolling through Instagram, or I'm taking a video of myself. And I'm not saying that we should do this, because we shouldn't. So this is one of the things that I think is being portrayed here, whereby the students are losing concentration and they're not actually listening. It's more of like passive hearing. And imagine if we're doing that and then suddenly the lecturer asks us a question, it's going to be detrimental to us because it shows that we're not actually listening. So this is what is being stated here, whereby the concentration levels of higher education students have decreased, and it is sort of a problem that needs to be faced and needs to be resolved. Now, moving on to the second slide, in contrast to what I just said prior to this, is the use of verbal and visual annotations was also found to contribute to more positive outcomes in listening comprehension in a study conducted by Jones 2003. The study showed that students are able to recall information better when aided with verbal and visual aids. So it's a complete contrast to what I said. And of course, there are the pros, there are the cons of using technology and using aids within the classroom when we're teaching listening skills. So this is one of the pros, in which it helps students comprehend a little bit better through visual and audio aids. So they're able to recall the information better, they're able to understand it better, they're also able to remember it better. And that is one of the pros of using technology when teaching listening skills. And the final point is that the internet can provide authentic materials which are more motivating for the learner. This could include webcasts, newsroom video claims, videos from YouTube and other providers, digital stories, online newspapers, and others. This was written by Kumar and Tamalin, 2008. So basically, the internet is really, really big. there's so much information on the internet that I think we as consumers don't really comprehend, and we're not able to grasp the amount of information online. But having said that, obviously the internet can provide authentic materials which educators can use in the classroom to aid teaching listening skills. And these materials can be interesting, these materials can be informative, these materials can be about the news, what's been happening recently. For example, it could be about the pandemic, COVID-19, how many cases there are right now, how many people have recovered, so on and so forth. So those are the examples that that can be used as authentic material for the classroom. And we as educators, if for example we don't find the material that we want online that is specific to our lesson, we can always create our own materials. We can create our own YouTube videos. We can create our own aids, as in visual aids such as slides or animation. And it's really up to us. We can even put it online for other people to use, and that contributes to technology being used within the classroom, and that is one of the pros as well. So I'm gonna pass on the mic to the next presenter, which is Nina Kamarina. Thank you, guys.
Hi and Assalamualaikum. My name is Nina Kamarina binti Kamarudin, and I'm the second presenter of this presentation. So let's continue with the technologies in developing listening skills amongst the students. So there are three types of technology, as you can see from the slides. The first one is the low technology. Low technology here means technology that is easy to access, where students and teachers don't require much training on how to use it. The items can be slightly less expensive, and it doesn't have complex or mechanical features. So the next one is mid technology. So this technology is more on the complex side. It could either be electronic or battery operated, and it may require some training to learn on how to use it. And last but not least is high technology, which is the most complex device or equipment used, and it has digital or electronic components, and it may be computerized. Firstly is the low technology. So as you can see from the slides, there are some of the examples of technology used to help developing the students' listening skills. And the first one is radio. So we all know what is a radio, right? And it is quite convenient as we can access it anywhere nowadays. Back then, we only relied on an actual radio or listen to it in the car. But now, there are platforms that cover these technologies, such as we can listen to it on the phones or even on the websites. And it is quite convenient and affordable too. So there are a few English radio stations in Malaysia that can help in developing the students' listening skills, such as Fly FM, Red FM, or Hits FM. And another thing is podcasts. Podcast is another example of radio. Have you heard of podcast before? If you don't know what it is basically a place where hosts engage in a discussion about a particular topic or any current event that's happening. And podcast also covers language learning, which can help the students developing your listening skills. Some of the examples are shown in the slides. And I listen to podcasts. I usually listen to it on Spotify. But you can also listen to it on YouTube or any platforms too. So another item is an audio tape. So audio tape, let's go back to the 2000s a bit, because this device was a hot potato a few years back. And it is known to record voices or sounds that can be replayed back. Teachers can play recorded texts published for language teaching purposes. And they can also record their own text, either from natural voice or from a live radio program broadcast by native speakers. And this will help the students to focus on the discrete points, and teachers can replay back the audio in case some of the students missed some of the part. And if audio tape is difficult to find these days, teachers can use their voice recorder on their phones. It works the same, but using audio tape has that nostalgic vibe a bit. Lastly is language laboratory, which is a space for students to learn languages using audio or audio-visual materials. And the students are placed in isolated booths with their headphones on, so the teachers can manage the audio to the students individually, as shown in the picture. And some schools have it while some don't. I for sure know that my school do not have this fancy facility. And the audio will pronounce some of the words or sentences, and the students will need to follow and repeat the words pronounced. It is almost the same as our previous third language classes, minus the headphones and booth. And the headphones is used to block out the noise distraction, so the students can focus on their listening skills. The next one is the Meet technology, and this technology focuses on videos. So videos is very accessible these days, as we can watch it anywhere and anytime on our phones, tablets, laptops, TV, and many more. And video is one of the good examples to develop students' listening skills, as it is an authentic material. It also caters to many learning styles, because videos are mostly visually pleasing with colors and audios, and students with visual and auditory learning styles would feel interested in learning through this medium. Nonetheless, the students also must remember to not only focus on just the fun, but they also need to listen to the videos shown to get the message behind it. And before showing the videos to the class, teachers need to filter out explicit contents. They need to make sure it does not touch any sensitive issues or has any sexual content, and must be in line with the topic taught to the students. Some of the examples of videos projection that can be used in the classroom are YouTube and Khan Academy, as shared by Ms. Hanin a few weeks back. Last but not least is high technology. So this technology circulates around an item, which is a computer, or it could be a laptop or any tablet devices that have the similar tech specs as the computer. And it is one of the most convenient products, as it is accessible to many languages learning platforms. The internet is just at the tip of our fingers, so it is easier for teachers to search up any listening materials for the students. And besides that, it is also an aid to language presentation. All it takes is a computer, a projector, and speakers. Through this method, the students get to see the learning content on the big screen. So some of the example of language learning platforms is the British Council, which consists of varieties of audios according to the student's level that can be used to enhance their listening skills. And another website is ESL Video, which has many selection of audios in form of slides, videos that can be used in developing the students' listening skills.
Hello everyone, my name is Dayang Nurmasithah, so I'll be sharing on how to use the technology in the classroom, but here I'll be focusing on YouTube. As we already know, YouTube is the most common website used by the teachers and the students in their teaching and learning process, because YouTube offers a few excellent features that give learners a lot of support in their language development, such as adjust the speed of a video, add closed captions, and finally the open transcript. Before sharing the video to the whole classroom, the teacher needs to adjust the speed of a video. 75% is usually the best for making speech understandable because it is not too distorted. The teacher can do this by clicking the setting button and then click on playback speed and finally choose 0.75. So there you go. For the next point, the teacher can add closed captions for many videos by clicking the CC button. Some of these videos are transcribed by people or the uploaders of the videos, but most are done by the machines. So there might be some issues, especially with proper nouns or fast and the casual speech. The first example, the only example that everyone can relate is the closed caption. The words in the closed captions are not aligned or tally with what are being said in the video. So I think that's it. And the last point is the teacher can also see the closed caption text compiled into a transcript by clicking the extra options, which are 3 dots buttons at the bottom, and then click on open transcript. So that's all for my part, and before that I have provided a link so everyone can explore themselves in their free time and try the excellent features that I have mentioned. That's all from me. Thank you.
So, in a listening classroom, the teacher has some roles to be played. Here, I've listed 4 roles of the teachers in a listening classroom. The first one is teacher as manager. So, the teacher has to make decisions in selecting the suitable listening input, in designing and sequencing all the activities for the listening classroom, and determining follow-up tasks. For example, doing some comprehension exercises or any fill in the blanks as exercises. The second one is teacher as controller, which it means that the teacher has to be in charge of her own plan, when to play the listening input and how many times should the input be played. The teacher has to be conscious about the whole listening process, because this is important to avoid any technical problems. The third role is teacher as facilitator. So, the teacher in a listening classroom, the teacher needs to give guidance to the students in comprehending the listening input. For example, if the listening input is about ways to bake a cake, so the teacher needs to give some guidance to the students if there are some students who don't understand what the listening input is all about. And the teacher needs to encourage the students to become aware of the listening, to tell them to listen carefully because it is very important. And the teacher should monitor their effort and provide feedbacks where needed. The fourth role of teacher in a listening classroom is as a resource person. So the teacher needs to provide feedbacks for the students, right? But for the weaker students, it is suggested that the teachers give feedbacks personally, as in to avoid any hurt feelings, And the teacher needs to educate the students on the importance of having a good listening skill and how they could become one.
Assalamualaikum and good morning. I am Nurfatin Nadia, and now I will continue the presentation with the types of listening activities, which is also the last part of the presentation. According to Claudia Pesce in 2007, she listed down 7 listening activities that can be conducted in an ESL classroom. So let's take a look at the first one, which is listening for main ideas. Listening for main ideas is when the students are required to come up with a summary of what the speaker in an audio track is trying to convey. So they don't have to search for any detail, for example, any specific names or any specific numbers. They just have to understand the whole idea of the audio. So example of activity here is summarizing points from an audio in 1 or 2 sentences. This will show that the student understand the audio and understand what is the speaker is trying to convey and is trying to deliver to them. The second listening activity is listening for details. So listening for detail is purposely to train the student to grasp specific information or details that are relevant and important and also necessary. In contrast to listening for main ideas, listening for details requires the students to take out all the important information such as the names, the exact dates, or the exact places that is mentioned in the audio track. So for the example of activity here is listening to biographies. Teacher can prepare a text or prepare a set of questions which require the student to fill in the answer while they are listening to an audio tape. The next one is listening for a sequence. Whenever we hear the word sequence, we already know that it is a process of something. It is the steps of doing something. So here, the example of activity here is listening to a series of steps, and the students have to write the sequence, or the teacher also can prepare a set of maybe cards, flashcards, and the students have to put the information in order. So that is for listening for a sequence. The listening activity number 4 would be listening for specific vocabulary. So this activity offers the students great opportunities to be taught new words or review vocabulary that is previously taught by the teacher. The example of activity here is detecting a series of words that are easily categorized. For example, the student listened to a song and they need to search for some vocabularies or words that fall into the same category. Let's take the song Old MacDonald's as an example. The teacher can ask the student to list down the names of the animals and maybe can categorize them by their own groups, for example, carnivore, herbivore, etc. So that is an example of listening for specific vocabularies, and there are a lot of other activities that can be done that lies under listening for specific vocabularies. The fifth listening activity is listening for cultural interest. This type of listening activity is very, very suitable to be conducted in our country because we have multicultural students, we have students that are coming from different backgrounds. So listening for cultural interest opens up their view to know other culture as well. So for example, here is listening to audio that speaks about popular holidays in Malaysia. For example, the teacher can play an audio about Hari Raya festival or maybe Christmas festival for those who celebrating. So the students who are not celebrating, they can get the idea of how they celebrate their cultural festival. So this is very, very applicable in our country and it is very important for the teacher to consider every student's background before they plan a listening activity in an ESL classroom. The next listening activity is listening for attitude and opinion. So this type of activity is suitable for advanced learners because this type of activity require the students to try to understand what the speaker is trying to deliver beyond their words. It's not only the literal meaning of the sentences or any words that come out from the audio. They have to search for something beyond that. And for example, here is listening to an audio about a man's personal problem, which they need to relate to their emotions, they need to relate to their feelings, and make conclusion that that particular man is having a problem in his life and maybe requires some help. So this type of listening activities is suitable for advanced learners instead of intermediate or beginners. Now we've reached the last type of listening activity, which is listening for functional language. So listening for functional language is when the students are taught to use some expressions, maybe for example to accept or decline invitation, to give suggestions or giving advice, etc. So this type of listening activity is when the student learn some expressions that they can use in their real world situation. An example of listening activity that can be conducted in an ESL classroom by the teacher is the teacher plays an audio track, a conversation between two people, which one of them is asking for an advice. So the student will learn how to use a proper expressions, to use appropriate expression to suit the situation, so that they won't hurt others' feelings, and they will tend to handle the situation in a good manner instead of using harsh words that will hurt others. So this is also can improve their communication skills. So that's all of the 7 types of listening activities by Claudia Pesce, and it marks the end of our presentation. And thank you very much for listening. See you. And that is all for our presentation. To summarize this presentation, we have presented about the past research on technology and listening skill, which is presented by Alyssa Krista. Technologies in developing listening skills, presented by Nina Kamarina. And Dayang Nurmasithah has presented about how to use technology for listening skills, while Nurul Nadhirah presented on role of teacher, and I, Nurfatin Nadia, have presented about types of listening activities. So that's all from us. Thank you.